with cash. You have to borrow. You have to take a mortgage. You can't.
But this is in certain circumstances, I think that makes sense. I have voted for some bonding plans in the past, but in this case, we are ending. Well, not we. I didn't vote for it, but the legislature and the governor ended our vertical infrastructure fund. So we used to do cash, pay as you go, so that the taxpayers wouldn't have to spend money on interest payments that could be spent on K-12 education or the prison guards who have to staff the prisons. I mean, we're going to be spending money going back to these Wall Street bankers that everybody's so angry about, instead of spending that money on services for Iowans. And I just think that's a bad choice. I mean, if we want to send money to Wall Street, then let's invest it in something rather than going to all these bankers and Wall Street folks that everybody's mad at.
Well, what do you propose if we don't do the bonding?
Well, first of all, I would let your gas tax, as I've seen the plan before you, that the House Democrats and Senate Democrats are proposing, they're not talking about using it to fund road construction. So I think a gas tax would be highly inappropriate to fund vertical infrastructure. Okay, that'd be the first thing that I would say.
Well, no, it's not going to be used for vertical infrastructure.
Then why would you use the gas tax?
This is what isn't the fact the governor said he will not sign a gas tax bill.
Correct.
But I will do bonding.
Correct.
Okay. Not saying they're used for the same thing.
I would do neither the bonding nor the gas tax.
You wouldn't do the gas tax?
No, I wouldn't do the gas tax.
Well, Representative Bukta, do you favor this bonding proposal?
I favor some sort of bonding proposal, yes.
And if you looked at the details of this one, is it sufficient?
When you do bonding, you have to pay interest. There's no other way around it.
It's how we bond for the jail here in Polk County.
Yes.
It's how we bond for most public buildings.
Yes.
We pay interest. And we need a prison. The legislature's acknowledged that, but the bonds failed last year. So is this the only way we go about building that prison, keeping the bridges going?
I don't have another answer for that.
What about this?
We don't have the cash to put out there. If Christopher said pay as you go, we don't have the cash.
But we used to.
We did, yeah.
You chose to end. No, Representative Bukta, last year in the Rebuild Iowa Infrastructure Appropriations Bill, you guys, and the governor signed into law, you ended the vertical infrastructure account. It doesn't exist in state government anymore. We used to put money into it every year and pay for these projects. You look at what was done in Fort Dodge Prison and the rest of that.
I misunderstood you. I thought you were going to say it was our overspending that did it.
No, your overspending has caused the budget problem we're in right now, but you chose to end the vertical infrastructure.
It's the national fault.
Representative Bukta, with all due respect, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
When we came into session this year, we had a $779 million spending gap. The Nonpartisan Service Bureau says that $550 million of that is because the obligations that you made last year exceeded the revenue that was available to us. And you knew that back in April.
And what obligation would you take away?
Well, I voted against all of your budget appropriations last year. But what has made it worse, and I will give you credit for this, what has made it worse is the decline in the economy.
Yes.
So that your $779 million budget gap is $550 because you overspent. It's $200 million because revenues have declined. But right now, I mean, Republicans offered several budget-saving ideas 3 weeks ago when we did the de-appropriations bill. You turned them all down. And now we're going to find out this week when the Revenue Estimating Conference meets, that we're short another $100 million. So your $779 million problem becomes an $879 million problem.
We won't know until Friday what the Revenue Estimating Conference is, but we are going to have to cut some more, aren't we, in state government?
I would say so.
Yes. And do you have any idea where we can do that now?
That's up to the budget committee
Well,
chairs.
that's true.
And I don't happen to be one of them, and I'm not on a budget subcommittee. But everybody's going to have to cut.
So that's what you'll have to do. You'll have to say you've all got to do cuts.
Probably. I don't think the Revenue Estimating Committee is going to say things are better right now.
And when you look at a bonding program, just to finish that out, you think it might be necessary at this point because we really can't raise the money to pay as you go.
Right.
What do we do with this budget then in areas where we have more problems because of the down economy? People keep talking about the judiciary cutbacks, but there's going to be more crime. There's more bankruptcy. People are losing their homes. we're going to have more DHS problems. Aren't there areas where we need to fund more, not less, in a down economy?
Well, we're looking at the federal stimulus package too, where we will be getting some funding from that. What is that? I don't remember the number of that.
I'm not sure of the number.
2 weeks ago, you spent $180 million of the federal stimulus
Yes.
package, which I voted against because all you're doing is pushing off the problem. Our local school districts in 2 years, when the federal stimulus money runs out, I don't know where you think you're going to get $180 million.
Things are going to be better by then.
But to fill that hole that you dug 3 weeks ago requires 3% increase in state revenue.
My question was, do you remember the total amount of stimulus that's coming?
There is over $600 million in the federal economic stabilization fund. There's a lot of other money that comes with strings attached.
Yes.
But the problem for states when you use that money, and that's why some governors have said they're not going to, is because when you spend that money, it runs out.
I know.
And it has to be made up for by the local taxpayers. I don't think Iowans can afford $600 million in tax increases in 2 years, but that's the path that Governor Culver has chosen to put us on. And I would hope the Democrats would stand up and say, no, we shouldn't go there. But so far, you have followed his lead on that.
When it's there.
Well, so you're saying,
But why take it? Because you're going to make the problem worse. What do you tell your school board 2 years from now when the federal money is gone and we're out of cash, and we say, what then?
Well, we might not be out of cash then. Things might pick up.
But the federal money will be gone. Well,
That will be gone.
Here, if you want things to pick up, here would be my recommendation to the Democrats. Do something that actually creates jobs, private sector jobs, and stimulates the economy. All the money you want to put into bonding, that's just temporary. It hires construction, which is good. I'm not downplaying that, or I'm not dismissing that. But those jobs, when the building is built, and they're all public buildings, or you're replacing a building, there's no new jobs associated with it. You have opportunities this year to do things to try to help employers expand, hire more people that are currently being laid off, but so far we haven't seen a single piece of legislation that would do any of that. And those are missed opportunities.
There is something in that, the stimulus package for job creation.
Private sector job creation?
and the bond bill
I
has an
think it's
Iowa
probably-
Jobs Board and Iowa
Yes.
Job